lovely souls! Welcome back to the Zesty and Spicy Kitchen. Today, we are making almond and hazelnut biscotti topped with white chocolate, chopped hazelnut, and dark chocolate. Overkill, you may say? Maybe, but take a bite and decide later. The inspiration for this recipe is, as always, my stomach. Still, I'll pass the blame on the vast display of good quality chocolate in the groceries here in Switzerland and the numerous trips back and forth to Milan in early 2023, which only intensified my obsession with biscottis and pistachio cream croissants. More on that in my blog at misspurplecrates.com if you're curious. So consider it cheat day if that makes you feel better, but we're about to make a pretty decadent treat. Are you ready? Let's go! First, let's gather all our ingredients and preheat our oven to 325 Fahrenheit, 160 Celsius. I'm using coconut oil for this recipe, which is not your typical ingredient, but I just love the taste. You can use any other type of oil, but the most common is vegetable oil. We'll obviously need some almond flour. Be careful on this one though, because almond flour and almond meal aren't the same thing. You want almond flour, which is blanched almond with the skin removed and ground into a fine powder. To recognize almond flour versus almond meal is often going to be the color, as almond meal is raw almond grounded, usually a bit coarser and also a bit darker because the skin is still on. Then we'll need some hazelnuts. Here I'm using raw hazelnuts, but it will make your life easier if you're able to find some already processed one without the skin. Other ingredients include cane sugar, eggs, baking soda, and fine sea salt. Since I decided to use raw hazelnut, let me show you how I process them to enhance the taste and remove the skin. Place your hazelnuts in a stainless steel frying pan and bring them to the stovetop. On medium-high heat, continuously move them around so they don't burn and adjust the heat if you start seeing burnt marks. Grilling them will not only bring out all the delicious flavor, but it will also loosen the skin, which is precisely what we want. Once that's done, transfer the grilled hazelnut into a container and shake them until the skin falls off. Don't worry if there's still a few pieces of skin left at the end, it won't make a big difference in the finished product, but try to remove as much as possible. Then chop them up in small pieces. Alright, now that everything is ready, it's time to mix. First, let's add our chopped hazelnut with the baking soda to the almond flour and put it to the side. In another mixing bowl, whisk together the sugar, the softened coconut oil, and the eggs. Whoops! Did I forget to mention we'll also need vanilla extract? Add a few drops to the egg mixture. Once everything is done, transfer the wet ingredient to the dry and mix until the texture looks like this. Then transfer your biscotti batter on a silpat or parchment paper lined baking sheet. I like to double pan for this recipe to make sure that the bottom of the biscotti aren't grilling too fast, but if you do not have two baking sheets that you can place on top of one another, reduce the baking time and keep an eye on them. Finally, shape the batter into a long rectangle, transfer into our preheated oven, and bake for about 20 minutes. Once that is done, allow 5 to 10 minutes for the log to cool down and then gently press it around to bring it back to a tighter shape before giving it another 20 minutes to cool down a bit more. After that time has passed, time to cut the biscottis. With a sharp knife, cut your biscotti on the smaller side of the rectangle and place them on the baking sheet flat side up. Bake for an additional 15 minutes. Once the 15 minutes are over, I'm sorry, I don't know why I don't have any footage of this, turn the cookies around on the other flat side and bake for one last 10 to 15 minutes. And voila, the biscottis are done, and you'll sadly have to wait for them to cool down before decorating, but they are already divine on their own. Once cooled down, it's time to add all the extra goodness. Like I said, I just had to be a little bit more extra on this one because the chocolate here is just so good, and why not allow ourselves a little extra treat from time to time, right? Cover these bad boys with a nice thick layer of white chocolate, sprinkle more chopped hazelnut, and finish them up with a nice swirl of dark chocolate. And voila! Bon appétit! I really hope you enjoyed today's recipe and you'll get to try it. If you liked today's episode and you would like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I'm going to catch you in my next one. Bye!